everybody. Today I'll talk about my country. Actually, this photo was taken in Brazil. But can you note the difference between those pictures?
In which one would you like to live?
Yeah, right one. Actually, they're both.
Oh my God.
And the biggest problem about this situation, and also about this picture, is that this side is much bigger than this one. Well, today I want to explain to you why I think that wealth distribution is the biggest social problem, is one of the biggest problems that Brazil has been facing for long years. First, I'll explain what wealth concentration is, then I'll pass through some of the main effects of it, and then I'll compare the situation of the wealth concentration in Brazil and in the world. Well, as you can see in this picture, when we talk about wealth concentration, we're talking about few people that own much more money than a big part of society, all the people, all the group, the rest of society that combined owns much less. Formally, we can say that the distribution of wealth is a comparison of the wealth of various members or groups in a society. But why is it a problem? There are some problems related to this condition of concentration. The first one that called my attention is that the social mobility is lower in countries that the inequality is bigger. So as you can see here, the inequality in the United States is pretty high, and the social mobility is very low. It means that if you are born poor, you have less chance to change your life, and you have less opportunities because of the situation of the country. Another problem, let's take a look in this example of those letters are those points are the states of the United States of America, and the more unequal they are, the more children drop out of the high school. So it's also affect the conditions of education in the country. And the last one is that the life expectancy is strongly related to the difference between the concentration of wealth, the different situation of concentration of wealth. In the richest countries, if you have more money, you are expected to live much more. Well, we often listen people say that the only thing that money cannot buy is time. But in this case, we see that indirectly money can buy time. But how about Brazil's situation? Is it really happening in our country? Well, let's take a look into this. First, I would like to explain to you that Brazil is one of the 10 biggest economies in the world, even bigger than Canada's economy. But I'm not wrong if I say that Brazil is poor, because as we can see in this graph, 66% of the families lives with less than 2,000 reais. What means that maybe more than 100 million people are living with less than $1,000 American dollars per month. And this situation is another point of view of those two other graphs. The first one shows that 1% of our population owns 48% of the whole wealth of the country. And not only that, this concentration is also related to some states of our country. So the infrastructure in a state like São Paulo is far different than the infrastructure of a country, of a state as Maranhão or Piauí. But if Brazil's inequality shocks the conscience, we must recognize that as a global human community, we are all Brazil. This pyramid is the global wealth, represents the global wealth distribution. It's pretty similar to the Brazilian one, and it shows that 45% of the whole richness of the world is owned by 0.7% of the population. On the other hand, we have 71% of the global population holding only 3%. But now, try to imagine how things could be different. Try to imagine how many people could travel, how many people could go to good universities, how many people could even buy their own house if those things were a bit different. We passed through what wealth concentration is. I explained some of the main effects of it, and then we compared the situation of Brazil and the whole world. Well, now it's probably clear for you the connection between this issue and what we call social inequality. And how to solve it? There are many possible answers, but they doesn't seem easy to become true. However, helping my country to build the image, the picture that our people deserve is my goal, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.